Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Animal Behavior. We just finished up talking about imprinting. We're talking specifically about learned behaviors, things that you have to experience, and then you store that experience, and then you can use that experience, that stored experience, to alter the outcome of some future event. A learned behavior, learning, experiencing something, storing it, using that information to alter a future outcome. Classical conditioning is when an unrelated stimulus is used to train an animal to expect another event. There's a number of ways, a number of things that you can do. The best example of this is Pavlov's dogs. Anybody who's taken psychology knows about Pavlov's dogs. A short explanation is Dr. Pavlov had dogs that he trained to expect a bell. He would ring a bell, ding, 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 and then he would give them a treat. And the treat was, I think, meat powder. Doesn't sound very good to me, but that's what he gave them. Ring a bell, and then gives them a treat. So then what happens? If you have pets, you know this. People shake the cat treat bag, and what happens? The cats come charging into the kitchen. You hit the can opener, and when you hit the can opener, the cats come charging in. You tell your dog you want to go for a walk, and the dog gets really happy and exciting, right? The animal, after you do the same behavior multiple times, they tie your behavior to something that they will expect. Pavlov rings a bell, the dog expects a treat. He actually did surgery on the dogs to open their salivary glands to the outside. And after he rang a bell, after a couple of weeks of training them to do this, after he rang the bell, saliva would start dripping out of their salivary glands. Obviously, if you are making saliva, that's not a conscious choice, that is an automatic response. So the animal clearly is expecting to eat. If it is clearly expecting to eat, the body is metabolically getting ready to eat by producing saliva. Okay? Is there any reason at all, why a normal dog would expect a treat after hearing a bell? There's no reason why they should expect to salivate. There's no reason why they should expect a treat just by hearing a bell. They were trained. They were conditioned. Classical conditioning. There's Pavlov with his little bell. He rings his bell. This is the actual setup that he used. This frame with the two leads on it to keep the dog from walking off the table. Watch what I can make Pavlov do. As soon as he rings the bell, he'll drool and he'll write in his little book. Associative learning. Associative learning is similar to classical conditioning, but there's one very important difference. With classical conditioning, the animal did not do the first behavior that got them the second reward, right? The dog did not ring the bell. If the dog doesn't ring the bell, then because the dog didn't ring the bell, that is classical conditioning. Associative learning is the animal learns to attribute a certain event with a voluntary behavior. The classical one of this one is a Skinner box. And I thought I had a picture of a Skinner box. Okay, so what was this dog's voluntary behavior? It messed with a porcupine. What did it learn? What happens when you mess with a porcupine? It hurts. What is this dog going to do when it sees a porcupine again? It's going to leave it alone. It learned to attribute this voluntary behavior, messing with a porcupine, with a certain result: pain. Okay? You can also look up images of a Skinner box. A Skinner box is, you've got usually a rat or a bird or something like that. You put a rat in a bird in this box, and there's two lights, a red light and a green light. And when the green light lights up, if the bird pecks at a particular button, then they get a treat. If the red light comes on and they peck the button, they get a shock. So They will learn voluntary activity. When I peck the button, I get a treat. That is associative learning. I associate what I did with a particular result. Habituation is when animals learn to ignore certain stimuli that have no positive or negative consequence. A really good example of this is your refrigerator or your air conditioning in your house. You generally don't notice when your refrigerator is running. And the reason why you don't notice is because it doesn't matter to you if it's on or off. You don't get any benefit when it turns on. You don't get any punishment when it turns on. So because there's no consequence to you, you don't pay attention to when it's running. You don't pay attention, so you just don't hear it. You get used to it. When we say you get used to it, that is habituation. You've become habituated. What if every time the refrigerator kicked on, there is a new tub of ice cream in the freezer? Would you suddenly now be really interested in listening for when the refrigerator kicked on? Yes, you would, and you would probably go charging to the refrigerator to see what the flavor was. What if every time the refrigerator kicked on, somebody punched you in the face? Would you suddenly be really interested to know when the refrigerator is about to turn on? Because it has a positive consequence, you pay attention to it. Because it has a negative consequence, you pay attention to it. If there's neither, you don't care, so you don't listen to it. This is a terrible picture that has been stretched beyond belief. It's not actually supposed to look like that. I can't even look at it. So this is a guy who's trying to habituate his dogs. Let me see if I can make it a little better. Well, that's all right. We'll just skip it. In that picture, it's a guy who's trying to get his dogs used to gunfire. He's habituating them to gunshots. So because they're probably hunting dogs. Spatial learning. Spatial learning is animals can learn their environments and create a mental map of the area. All right, so I want you to work with me. Close your eyes. Just listen. I want you to imagine the route you're going to take to get back to school. Getting in your car, pulling out of the driveway, pulling on the highway. You just followed the route that you take to get to campus in your head. You have a mental map. You have a mental map of your house. Could you probably walk from your living room to your bedroom without hitting very much, if with your eyes closed? You get up in the middle of the night and you go to the bathroom all the time. And you have a mental map of your house. You have a mental map of the town that you live in. You probably have a mental map of a lot of areas around you. This is called spatial learning. Animals learn the environments. This is a really great example of spatial learning. So right here we see, here's this wasp, and she has dug a nest in a sandbank. Researchers have gone and put a bunch of pine cones around her nest. Well, she now learns that her nest is in the center of these pine cones. Spatial learning. This is her landmark. So after they let her go in and out of the nest for a few days like this, then what they do is they move the pine cones. When she comes back from foraging, she flies to the center of the pine cones because that's where her nest is. She has a mental map. She knows. She learned landmarks. She learned. And so she flew to where her nest should have been. I hope they put the pine cones back. But then again, everybody hates wasps. Social learning. Social learning is a lot of fun. Social learning is, we have a very old saying of social learning. If you are an older sibling, did your parents ever yell at you for doing something and say, don't do it in front of your little brother or little sister because they're going to want to do it now? What is the old saying that goes along with that? Monkey see, monkey do. Social learning. Individuals will watch others of their group and try to mimic behaviors that they see. You probably won't be able to see very well what this image shows you. Again, I hope that you've got the PowerPoints downloaded so that you can look at this image yourself. What we have is 3 different people playing with a toy. It's just a blow-up, I don't even know what they used to call them when I was a kid. Anyway, so at the top, what we can't see very well is we can see this is an adult woman. And so this woman is sitting on the toy and she's punching it in the face. The woman grabs the toy and throws it across the room. You can't see very well, but she's holding a hammer. The woman takes this little toy mallet and she strikes the toy with the mallet. The woman then kicks the toy across the room. And so what they do is they let kids watch her interact with the toy doing these 4 behaviors: sitting on it and punching it, throwing it across the room, hitting it with a hammer, and kicking it. Look at the next images. Here's a little boy. Little boy is sitting on it, punching it. Little boy is picking it up to throw it. Little boy has the hammer and is going to strike it. Little boy is kicking the toy. A little girl, she's sitting on it, and to be fair, I don't think she's punching it, but still, she's sitting on it like she saw the woman do. She's sitting on it. She's going to pick it up. She's clearly holding a hammer and is going to hit it, and she kicks the thing. Social learning. Monkey see, monkey do. We watch others, and we imitate and we mimic what we see them do. This is why when you have kids, you shouldn't swear around them, because kids say the darndest things. They're going to repeat whatever it is that they hear. They're going to repeat whatever behaviors they see their parents do. They're going to repeat any words they hear their parents use. Social learning.